Welcome or welcome back to Mia's Life with Books. Today, in honour of spooky season, I'm going to be talking about all things spooky books. I've compiled a list of the ultimate spooky season read, covering a few different categories. So I've got a witchy vibes category, a spooky romance category, gothic fantasy, and then just a good old thrillers section. I just feel like every single one of these books just perfectly fits the vibes of spooky season. If you want to make the most of spooky season, I'd recommend reading some of these books. I do have a lot of books to get through, so I think we should just get on with it. I think it's only fair we start with the ultimate spooky season read, the good old thrillers. I've chosen my favourite spooky thrillers, which I think are perfect. So starting off with kind of the classic spooky season read, I've chosen Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. If you've never heard of this book, I don't know where you've been. This is insanely popular and it is known for its creepy vibe. This book essentially follows Mallory, who is hired as a nanny for this little boy. However, strange things start happening surrounding this little boy. She hears him speaking in his room. He starts drawing very creepy and scary pictures, which get more and more scary as the book goes on. I feel like I don't want to say much more than that because this one is just a wild ride, and I think it's best if you just go into it knowing the bare minimum. But I'm sure if you have heard of this book, you will know that the pictures are included in the book, which makes it that extra bit creepy because these pictures are severely disturbing. You will definitely get the creeps with this book, and I gave this one 4.5 stars, so clearly it's a good one. Then I've gone with Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. This one has had mixed reviews, I would say, but personally I loved it and I gave it 5 stars. In this book we follow our main character Ethan, who has reluctantly returned to his childhood home 30 years after his childhood best friend disappeared. They were camping in the garden one night and the next morning his friend Billy had just completely vanished. Now he is back at his childhood home, strange things keep happening and it's almost like the presence of Billy is there with him, which leads to Ethan trying to find out what truly happened that night 30 years ago. But this book does have a bit of a paranormal edge to it, which I think is mainly the dividing factor for opinions on this book. But like I said, me personally, I really enjoyed it and I think it was done well. And obviously paranormal, strange goings on, what more could you want in spooky season? I just remember being absolutely hooked with this book, and I read it around this time last year, so I can confirm it is the perfect spooky season read. I would definitely recommend giving it a go, even if you have heard mixed things, because as I said, it was a 5-star for me, so it might be a 5-star for you too. Then we have We Used to Live Here. Now this is a book that I actually did not enjoy that much. I read it recently and I only gave it 3 stars. Thinking back on it, it might even be closer to 2.5 stars. However, I have included it because I know a lot of people have loved this and I do know some people that have given it 5 stars. So I'm including it because I do think it is great for spooky season and clearly other people have loved it. So I think if it sounds interesting to you, it's definitely worth a try because you might end up being one of the ones that absolutely loves it. So we have a couple who have moved into their new house and one night they get a knock on the door, and at the door this man is there with his family and he says that he used to live in the house as a child, and he asks if he can have a look around to show his family where he grew up. She does let them in, however she quickly comes to regret that because what happens after that is a crazy ride, and honestly she definitely shouldn't have invited them in. The main issue I had with this book is that it was a bit confusing and a bit unsatisfying even when you were getting answers. I definitely enjoyed the first third, maybe the first half, but then it just completely dropped off for me, and I can't actually go into too much detail about why because it is a big spoiler, but I just didn't enjoy the direction that the book took. But I do know that the direction the book took is a reason why other people love it. One thing I will say about this book is that it's definitely creepy. It has the creepy vibes all over it and it makes you feel a bit like you're in a fever dream. So I think there's a high chance you will feel on edge with this one. I'd still recommend it for that reason. Then we have Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. Back to another 5-star now, so I would highly recommend this book. It's one of my favourite books of this year so far, and this book is literally set around Halloween, so it is literally perfect timing. Our main character Jet gets brutally attacked and is essentially left for dead. However, she does survive and she wakes up in the hospital, but she is told she only has 7 days left to live. And Jet decides to spend those 7 days trying to solve her own attempted unaliving. I think this is one of the best premises. It's so creative, so unique, and the execution was perfection. I honestly love this book so much, and it made me cry, which is quite unusual for thrillers. We definitely have the Halloween vibes, definitely have the on the edge of your seat vibe. It's definitely a page turner, and I would highly recommend, especially for this season. It's literally made for this season. Please read it. Then we've got Deadly Occupants by Mads Rafferty. This is just your typical typical haunted house thriller. And again, haunted house, perfect for October, perfect for spooky season. What more could you want? We follow a group of friends who go to this haunted house, and when they leave, something comes with them. And again, I feel like this is one I don't want to say too much more than that. That is the very, very, very basic plot. But I think this one is just so fun to see kind of how it unravels without knowing much about it. But this one genuinely had me a bit scared. I was reading it in bed in the dark on my Kindle, and I got a bit creeped out. It did scare me, I can't lie. Again, if you want to be scared, this is another good one for that. It's also very fast paced and easy to read. I feel like this book kind of embodies the idea of a jump scare in a book, if that makes sense. And I believe I gave this one 4 stars. The Perfect Child by Lucinda Berry. I feel like this one is less specifically spooky season. You could read this all, well, you could read any of these all year round, but especially with this one. However, it's got this kind of spooky child kind of trope, disturbed child, which I feel like does suit spooky season well. And I will say this book will make you extremely, extremely frustrated, but it is so gripping. And this child is very creepy. It makes you feel very uncomfortable. And the child in question essentially has been adopted by this couple, and then it becomes apparent she is not the perfect child that they thought she was. Lucinda Berry always writes really fast-paced, really gripping thrillers, and this one especially does have you on the edge of your seat, which again, as I've said, perfect for this season. And I gave The Perfect Child 4.5 stars. Lastly, for my thriller section, I have gone with Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. Alice Feeney is one of my favourite authors. Daisy Darker, I feel like, is Alice Feeney's most underrated book. I absolutely love it. I did give it 4 stars, but I think about it so much that it probably should be a 4.5 star. The twist in this was absolutely phenomenal, and I also think the isolated setting and the tense atmosphere of this book is why it's on this list, because that setting to me just feels like the ultimate spooky season setting, more in the sense of getting cozy with a book, but it's like storming outside, it's storming in the book. It's that kind of spooky season vibe. I just honestly think this is one of the most clever books that I have ever read, and I read it around 2 years ago now, and like I said, I still think about it so often that I couldn't not include it on this list, and I do always try and find opportunities to recommend it anyway, so here it is. Here's my final thriller recommendation. I think you should read it, especially if you like stormy, isolated atmospheres. Editing Mia here, and I just realised I did not explain anything about the actual synopsis of this book. It is one of those ones that I think is better for you to go in semi-blind to. However, I will give a bit more detail because I just didn't say anything at all. So as I've mentioned, this has got an isolated setting, and the isolated setting is a private island that is owned by the Darker family, and they're all going to this island to be reunited for the first time in many, many years. And with this isolated island, when the tide comes in, they are essentially cut off from the outside world until the tide goes back out again. And when they were all there for this reunion, it seems like everything starts going wrong, and they have to try and survive the night until they can escape when the tide goes back out. There is more to it than that, but like I said, you should read it, find out for yourself. Next, I think we should go for some witchy vibes books. So for this category, I've got 1 romance and 2 fantasies, and they're giving everything witchy, and I think witchy vibes are just so fun in this kind of season, and they can be a bit more lighthearted than your typical scary thriller. So if you're not particularly interested in thrills and chills, you can still have a lot of fun with some witchy vibes books. So first, for the witchy vibes romance, it is The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. This is the second book in the interconnected The X-Hex series. However, I didn't read The X-Hex before reading this one, and that was fine. So I can't really recommend The X-Hex as I haven't read it. I can recommend this one, and I did really enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars, and I think if you don't want to read The X-Hex, you don't have to. You can just go straight into this one. And this is just everything your typical witchy romance should be. It was so much fun. It honestly surprised me with how much I enjoyed it. We kind of have a bit of rivals to lovers in this one. Our main female character, Gwyn, has a shop of her own that sells like witchy goods, and when Wells Penhallow returns to the town, he opens up a shop opposite Gwyn, causing there to be a bit of a rivalry. But there is also a bit of a mystery in the sense that it seems that a new coven of witches has appeared, and Gwyn's magic starts to fade. So then Gwyn and Wells have to pair up together in order to save Gwyn's magic and potentially save the town itself. So again, it is just your typical fun witchy romance. You can't really go wrong with it, and I absolutely adored Gwyn's character. She was so much fun to read, and I think Gwyn and Wells together made such a cute pairing. I think if you're looking for a really fun but kind of Halloween vibes romance, this is definitely the one you should go for. Then moving on to the witchy fantasies, we have of course The Crimson Moth by Kristen Cicerelli. The Crimson Moth, again, one of my favourite books of this year. I gave it 5 stars. It is an absolutely incredible duology, and the witches in this and the magic system are very unique, I feel, to normal witches. They use blood magic, and Rune actually uses her her period blood, which I think is really unique and interesting because usually that's just like not even mentioned in a book. But anyway, the actual plot is witches are outlawed, and if you are caught to be a witch, you will be set to be executed. Our main character Rune is also known as the Crimson Moth, a secret identity which she uses to save the witches that have been caught out and sentenced. And there is one particular witch that she is itching to save, and to do this she needs to gather intel from Gideon. Gideon is the lead witch hunter who is entirely loyal to the cause of getting rid of all witches. So we have a witch hunter dynamic, which is so fun. It's also cat and mouse as well. And naturally, Rune and Gideon end up falling for each other when really they can't ever be together because they are a witch and a witch hunter. It is actually so much more than that. It's honestly just so much fun. It's got so many different layers to it. The most perfect witchy vibes. It's also got Bridgerton vibes as well. It's literally giving witchy Bridgerton, and I am obsessed with witchy Bridgerton. I need more witchy Bridgerton books. Speaking of witchy Bridgerton books, my last book in this section is The Witchleys by Annalise Avery. This is another witchy Bridgerton book. This is slightly more YA feeling than The Crimson Moth, but it's still really good and I would still recommend it. This is also like a rivals to lovers kind of situation. So in this book, when witches enter into the season, they're looking for a match to be tethered, which is where you find your magical witchy pairing. However, our main character has cursed magic, so no one wants to pair with her, and if you don't tether with someone, you will lose your magic. So she is desperately searching to find a way to keep her magic without tethering, since no one will tether with her. And that is when our male character Jules comes in, who is also searching for a way to do this. They end up working together, even though they are from rivaling families. In fact, his family is the very reason that she has this curse in the first place. It is honestly such an interesting concept, and the magic system in this was really, really unique and interesting to me. I thought it was so cleverly thought out, and I honestly just really enjoyed this book, and it just had everything I love in a book. So if you want more witchy Bridgerton, this is your book. Now we're going to move on to the spooky romances. I feel like the OG spooky season romance is definitely The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I actually only gave this one 3.5 stars, so it wasn't a favourite for me, but again, I know so many people who absolutely love this book and swear by it, and because it is kind of just the OG spooky season romance book, I had to include it anyway. Our main character has to return home when her father dies, and all her life she has been able to see ghosts, and when she returns home, a very particular ghost turns up on her doorstep, and it actually turns out to be her new editor. I feel like I haven't explained that premise very well at all, but I also think this is one that you don't need to know too much about before going into it. I think it's another one that kind of reveals itself nicely as you go along, and it really does have the perfect kind of autumn vibes. Obviously got that spooky element because we're talking about ghosts, but it's very heartwarming and very cozy, and I think it is the perfect blend of cozy with that little bit of spooky thrown in there. So I definitely think if you are looking for a cozy autumn spooky season romance, this is as cozy as it gets. Then we've got My Roommate is a Vampire. There are actually 3 books in this series now. I have read the first 2 and I've enjoyed both of them. This one's my favourite of the 2 that I've read. I gave this one 4 stars. These books are just so funny. They are absolutely hilarious, and they are also really fast paced, and they've got amazing characters. And if you couldn't tell by the title, essentially we've got a roommate situation going on, and the mysterious new roommate that she has is a vampire. And I actually just don't even want to say any more because that is such a basic concept, but there's so much more that happens, and I just feel like that's, again, all you need to know. Yeah, this is definitely my pick for absolutely hilarious spooky season romance. I was just laughing out loud so often with this book, but you also do really care to grow for the characters, and I think it's always fun to read a vampire romance around spooky season. And this year, this is the spooky romance that you should read. And we have Bride by Ali Hazelwood, one of my favourite authors, which is a vampire werewolf romance. Some say it's fantasy, but I personally do just think it is a romance with fantastical creatures, hence why I put it in this category. But again, it's just got the perfect spooky season vibes. It's literally Halloween romance to a T. Does it mention anything about Halloween? Not really, no, but just the fact that it's a vampire and a werewolf in a romantic situation, it's giving Halloween, it's giving spooky season, and every Ali Hazelwood book to me is just so easy to read. It's so much fun, and I just always have the best time reading her books. So I think if you haven't read any Ali Hazelwood before, or if you have read Ali Hazelwood but not this one, I think now is the perfect season to pick this one up, especially because the sequel to this has just come out, which I will definitely be hoping to read this spooky season to carry on the spooky vibes from this book. This was a 5-star for me, as pretty much every Ali Hazelwood book is, so in my head you can't go wrong with this one. Lastly, we're going to go to my gothic fantasy section. I only really have 2 options for this one, but one of the options is technically 3 books in one, but we'll get to that one. Firstly, we have Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This is essentially the perfect spooky season book because it has so much going on and so much going for it that is just amazing. It's got the perfect blend of gothic fantasy, romance and mystery, and that blend just works so well, and it all comes together to create the perfect spooky season read. Gothic fantasy on its own is just perfect for the season. It's again got that kind of like cozy kind of spooky vibes going on at the same time, and it's very atmospheric for this season. So I had to include a gothic fantasy section, and this is my current gothic fantasy obsession. I'm 2 books into this series. I've got the last one to read, which I can't wait to read, and I just honestly do think this would be perfect for this season. We also have Death as a love interest. How much more Halloween can you get than having Death as a love interest? I'll wait. Exactly. You can't. This is the ideal gothic fantasy read for Halloween spooky season, and I need so many more people to read this because it is one of my favourite series at the moment, and I gave this one 4.5 stars. Then to wrap up this spooky recommendations video, I can't talk about gothic fantasy without talking about one of my favourite authors, Rachel Gillig. The Shepherd King duology and The Night and the Moth are both amazing gothic fantasies that again have the perfect atmosphere, the perfect setting, the perfect vibes for spooky season. They all definitely have spooky kind of magical feelings to them and just match the season in terms of that gothic atmosphere. It's very dark, it's very gloomy, but it's also very beautiful, and all the books are so good. All 3 of these were 5 stars for me. The Night in the Moth is currently my favourite book of this year. The Shepherd King duology were my favourite books of last year. I honestly cannot recommend these books enough, so of course I had to include them. I could talk about them for so long, but all I'm going to say is I promise you these are the perfect books to read this season. And if you haven't read them already and you like gothic fantasy, read them now. So that marks the end of my spooky season book recommendations video. I tried to keep it quite quick for each book, so sorry if it's not as thorough as you would like it to be. If you've got any questions about any specific books, let me know in the comments, and I'm willing to give you more of my thoughts and opinions. But pretty much every single one of these books I loved, and as I said at the beginning, and probably multiple times throughout the video, I think they are all perfect for this season. So I feel like this book recommendations list is all you need to make your spooky season TBR. Please do let me know if you've got any spooky TBR recommendations, because I will always be looking for more. I hope these recommendations are useful for you, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, please do leave a like and even subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. It would honestly mean the world to me, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.